Good evening, good morning, hello everybody. I hope to address you and to welcome you in the Archivio Negroni, in the Archivio of our own, here with my partner in crime, Nichka Marobin. Welcome, Nichka. Thank you again for this connection. I can't wait, and I hope maybe next time we can organize something in person, in real life, because it's really time to begin to bring back our lively conversation and not only at distance. Today, we are talking, you suggest me a very curious word, painterly, and so soon I will ask you why, but let me ask you first of all, what you are wearing tonight.
Oh, yes. Hi, everybody, and thank you, Eliana, for hosting me. And it is always a really nice experience, a nice opportunity to be a guest here for our conversation. So welcome, everybody who who is listening and is watching the conversation. I'm wearing a brooch by Chiara Scappiti, and I really I collected it many years ago because I really loved the fact that she put the eyes, which are for the first time I saw the brooch, I thought this has to be mine because it is through the eyes that an art historian and so grasps the meaning of the invisible messages of the works of art, and I'm very glad to see that both of us, we have a red thread that connected us also from your glasses and the red thread in
my red brooch is by
yes, my
is by Corrado, is by Corrado de Meo.
Yes. So
and the title is a portrait of a lady with flowers, so it may introduce our subject. In fact, your brooch, with the eyes, it's like a badge of an art historian, as you as you were told.
I used to say that art historians have a lot of images beyond their eyes, so each time they put the gaze on something, probably they recognize something, and something is resonates in the head. So it's really.
So how is your the meaning of painterly, the subject of our conversation today?
Yes. So our new episode of the archive, our own, both Eliana and I, we have talked about a specific path that was able to connect painting and contemporary jewelry through the work of 3 women artists for the historical part, and numbers of makers in the field of contemporary jewelry. And as you can see from the opening image, as it suggests that the fil rouge, this connection and this image will be only the fil rouge between these two words. But we will consider also a concept that it is really cherished, that I really cherish. And it is the concept of marginality, that so-called life of the margins, that it is one of my favorite subjects. margins in the miniature and the illuminated manuscripts were the frame of the main subject of the miniature. And in the margins, the author and the artist that illuminated the book always have much more freedom in the margin than in the subject, because the subject had to really follow a strict message and a very precise image. So in the margin, the margins are free. It is a free landscape full of life. And of course, living in the margin gives you a possibility and a special point of observation. Anyway, I really love this first image because it makes a connection between the book from everything started in a way for our conversation, and a wonderful creation by Christopher Thompson Rhodes, and it is a sort of buttercups that are earrings. And I really love this kind of connection because buttercups, as cornflowers or poppies, are those wild flowers which refine and enhance the hedgerows. And these wild flowers are really nice and kind, and nobody pays attention to this yellow flowers that always it is an ornament from paths in the garden or even in the countryside. And it is it is close to the subject of the book, which was written and published in 2011 and written by Anna Banti, who was an essayist and a writer and a novelist, an Italian novelist. A rough translation of the title, because unfortunately it is not has been translated in English, is When Even Women Started to Paint. And it is a sort of small gallery of tiny portraits of women artists that were not acknowledged. I mean, that were not considered in a way. But first of all, it will be useful to introduce to the non-Italian speaking people the writer and the author, who is mainly known for her historical novel Artemisia, concerning the artist Artemisia Gentileschi. What is worth to know is that Anna Banti, whose name was Lucia Lopresti, was primarily an art historian. She married the famous Italian art critic and art historian Roberto Longhi, but she quitted the field of art history very soon because, as she said in an interview to Sandra Petrignani, she said, "I was not made for art history, and changing the field was a good idea." In addition, as regards the field of art history, even if I had some good intuitions, there was already Roberto Longhi who was excellent. So she said about herself that she could be only an ordinary art historian. And Banti probably always suffered to be considered the wife of. And she always pursued a sort of independence, both as a woman and as a writer, and as a woman writer, as we can see in all her novels and essays. And it is probably for this reason that she always filled her novels with characters who lived in the margins. And one of these cases was the case of Artemisia Gentileschi, who was in a sense discovered by her, but also for so many other characters of the novels, as I've already said. And in a book dedicated to all these forgotten and underestimated and unacknowledged women, writing is able to enlighten those figures that but left behind in the shadow of the great art history. And this little book, it is a small collection of.
It's like to read and like look at some portraits, very
Yes,
immediate. It's
yes.
something very that suggests. Her descriptions are very very direct, as if you have side by side Mrs. Anna Banti, and she's explaining you how you can put in the history of art the different painters. It's really a small book. It's really interesting. Hoping to having it translated in
I hope
English.
it will be translated in English also, because it is a really tiny book, but it is a sort of small collection. It seems to that to reader is
it's a very
like
tiny book.
Yes,
very small,
very small, and it is a collection. It is like walking in a painting in a gallery of painters. That really deserve a new light. And as far as I'm concerned, I think that today Anna Banti would be very happy to see and to know that during the past years, several exhibitions have been dedicated to the women artists she described in a book. And at the moment, while we are talking at Palazzo Reale in Milan, there is a current exhibition entitled Le Signore dell'Arte, Storie di donne tra 500 e 600. It means Greek ladies of painting during the 17th and 16th century. And it is precisely dedicated to those women artists that she named that she described in a book, that are, for example, not only Artemisia Gentileschi, but among others, the talented Giovanna Garzoni, Sofonis Banguissola, Fede Galizia, Lavinia Fontana, Elisabetta Siriani. There are a lot of names that deserve a really an exhibition. So, and moreover, in July, finally, we will be able to see at the Castello del Buon Consiglio in Trento a major exhibition dedicated to the talented artist that was Fede Galizia. And of course, we cannot forget the other exhibition held in Rovereto at MART Museum, dedicated to the Bloomsbury Group and Vanessa Bell in 2013. Mm-hmm. And finally, as a final touch, as you know, there has something to be something that comes from the northern part of Europe. And in addition to these exhibitions, there are also, we cannot forget the major exhibition that for the first time the Prado Museum dedicated to a woman in 2016, who was Clara Peters. So the first painter we will meet this evening is Fede Galizia. Her name, Fede, which means faith, was a sort of manifesto. She was born in Milan, but she came from a family which origins were in Trento, and Trento was the city that hosted the famous Council of Trento, held between 1543 and 1563, which was the embodiment of the Counter-Reformation. So having such a name was a really programmatic, she has a really programmatic name, Fede.
She couldn't she couldn't have any else to do with such a
with a father Nunzio, yes, with a father Nunzio, who was a painter and miniaturist, and she moved to Milan. Unfortunately, the lack of document doesn't allow to the community of scholar to create a sort of a chronological order of the corpus of their works. But she started working very early, and she was an excellent painter, and she painted also several subjects from still lifes that we can see here, which were really appreciated also by the Emperor Rudolf II, because he saw them through the medium of Arcimboldo, or Giovanni Arcimboldi, as well as mythological and biblical scenes. We know for sure that there are 2 or 3 works that are signed and dated, which are the portrait of Paolo Morigia of 1592 and a Judith signed 1596. But what I like the most, yes, this is a Judith. But looking at the delicate still lifes, her bravura emerges. She mastered everything: the colors and the glares, the subtle reflections of the metals from peaches.
Was she influenced by the European style in painting the still life? Because if I look at this painting, I go straight to the Flemish
and the northern genre of still life. Well, women could not paint, and women could not have models. So yes. So, but this skillfulness in painting details and the rendering of the glares of glass, for example, if you see the peaches, and as well as or the reflections of the metals, as well as the entire composition, that is extremely elegant and extremely excellent, and
well balanced,
and also well balanced, testify that she was a really excellent painter. And from peaches to cherries, this evocation of a nature resting in silence really casts all its spell and its magic. The glares of metals and the reflection of the glass, the compositions are excellent example of that tiny, I call them the whispered domestic voices which filled the genre of still life. But she was also a very talented painter in several genres. So, as we can see for the Judith, for example, this kind of Judith, which is, I suppose, the one in Sarasota, which is signed 1596, has nothing to do as the one that we have always had under our eyes, that are the one of Caravaggio and the one really violent of Artemisia Gentilissima. This is very detailed, very precious. And we know that there are
so
two
elegant. She's committing a crime, but in a very...
She's so elegant. And Fede Galizia painted another subject, also with Judith, but changing the clothes and changing also, you see, and changing not only the clothes. This is the one that is hosted at the Galleria Borghese in Rome. And
it is the same picture, the same painting, but she changed the dress, the jewellery.
She changed the jewelry. So it is, I mean, this kind of Judith, even if it's well painted and it is richly detailed, has nothing to do with the force and as well also the theatrical in a way.
The drama
that we are used to when we think about a Judith painted by Caravaggio as a Baroque in a way style. The fact that she really loved details is undoubtedly due the fact that she was trained also as a miniaturist by his father. So this is really, this makes her really mastering this.
Her
this
approach was so focused on the details as she began with this learning.
As I said before, very few are the documents that regard to Fede Galizia. But we know that she died in 1630 of the plague in Milan. So, but I'm very happy, and I think that Anna Banti will be very happy too to see that now there is a major exhibition finally showing her talent, which is really, really deserved. The second artist, which is my personal touch for the
every time this image is so stunning.
Yes, she's Clara Peters, and this murmured poetry of several objects depicted on a linen napkin with a sumptuous use of goblets and flowers, gold cups, as well as all the domestic views of tables filled with fruits, vegetables, cheeses, nuts, and candies, are the leitmotif of the work of Clara Peters. Also for Clara Peters, there is a lack of documentation. The community of scholars thinks that she was born in Antwerp. She was active and probably born in Antwerp in 1594. But also she worked in the Dutch Republic. And she's the first woman artist to whom the Prado Museum dedicated an exhibition in 2016. So it is quite astonishing because the corpus and the body of her work is really, really few, but it is extremely, extremely excellent, as you can see. Clara Peters was the first woman pioneering and mastering the genre painting, and precisely the still lifes, where among the glare of the glasses and the reflections of metallic surfaces, she portrayed herself as a tiny murmured shadow and an echo, as you can see here from the goblet, and also as you can see, and also from the gold cup at the
sorry.
Oh,
okay.
okay. If you enlarge the image,
Yes,
Eliana,
here in the
we can
center.
yes, in the center, as you can see, yes. This is, of course, as all the art historian, it's something that recalls a reflection that even painter Jan van Eyck did in one of these wonderful painting that is the Madonna of the Van der Pale. So she, to me, she is one of the epitome of that life of the margins, which never ceases to whisper, and that kindly enhances that quest of the invisible that every representation of the visible world evokes. So she, this silent, this murmured poetry is, it's something that that always gives you a sort of sense of wonder, and even if it is painted.
And also, let me say, a sense of respect of like if she or the painter was to remain apart from the beauties, from the also the really exciting way of representing also objects, also not only nature, not only human scenes, the portraits, but also in the magic of the little and small things in still life. So
yes,
this was a kind of, I read it like a kind of respect, if I may say.
Yes, it could be read like this, but we have to say that there is a long tradition from the Flemish primitive painters to depict themselves, from Jan van Eyck, the marriage of the Arnolfini portraits at the National Gallery, which stands, and we can see it, his reflection on the mirror. So there is a long tradition.
It's like a signature.
It's a sort of signature, and as a signature, I mean, we can see through the preciousness of the details that displays itself from the delicate metallic lace on a salt cellar. If you can enlarge the image, you can see how thin and how delicate is this this painting, and the accuracy of the details, and as well as, I mean, through the depiction of flowers, or through the exquisite rendering of the silver knife, where her signature lies, especially in this painting, that it's signed and dated probably 1611. So she is, to me, the epitome of she's summarizing what I consider the life of the margins, because even if she is a sort of a reflection in a goblet, or a reflection on a glass, or a reflection on a metallic surfaces, she's always there, and she's telling us, I'm there, and I'm the author of this work. So I am an artist, and as I said before, this life of the margin never ceases to whisper us, and it is also really an hint for that quest of the invisible that every representation of the visible world evokes.
And if I can add only a small consideration about engraving, because I think that when you talk about this delicacy and remain in a margin, in a shade, in a kind of shade of an artist that represents something in the foreground. I think the art of engravers is really expressing this kind of delicacy. And I wish to, and while we were thinking about the images, I found this image from the Archivio Negroni, and I wish to share with you because we saw the representation of Clara Peters of this special kind of engravings, hand engraving. And this is coming from this box with this plate in a copper plate engraved by a very young Edoardo Negroni, the founder of the workshop Negroni. He was 18 when he started make something precious with his learning art. And this was just a cameo of coming from the Archivio.
But it is not only a sign of your affection to Edoardo, but it's also something that it really takes something as the ornament, as the foliage ornament that was really used and extremely important and extremely famous and how can I say very employed during Renaissance times. So and foliages are really able to express themselves and to as well to enter in every kind of surface. So
yes, and this was really
nice.
an excellent. I went a couple of years ago. I visited with some students from the competition of Gioielli in Fermento. We visited the School of Artiography. As for the winner of the competition could attend lessons on engravings, on hand engraving, and this was really the kind of exercise that recalls to all the classical iconic subjects that has to practice the way of learning to be an engraver. So this is really scholastic. I don't know if it is, let me say in my Italian English.
Things that pupils do, pupils do to learn how to engrave.
This is really one of the steps that if you wish to practice and acquire your skill, you have to practice this kind of foliage. And this is learning from all the art engravers that in history. So this was a really kind memory for me.
Which at the very beginning, who are the very engravers who at the very beginning and during Renaissance times were were pupil and were members and made their apprenticeship in goldsmith.
Yes, so absolutely.
they are linked together, of course. So it is the next step.
And now we jump in another epoch from the portraits by Anna Banti.
See, the last one of our women artists named in the book of Anna Banti is Vanessa Bell, who was the elder sister of Virginia Woolf. And we jump in a really different world, in a world of color, which helps us to as I say, it is a sort of bridge that will allow us to talk about also to the part of the contemporary jewelry. And Vanessa Bell was born in 1879. She died in 1961, and she was actually the queen of Bloomsbury Group, together with Vanessa, the Bloomsbury Circle, and the Queen Bee of Charleston Farm. So the farm she bought in 1917, and which became the center of life as an artist, together with the art critic Roger Fry and Duncan Grant, who was also his lover and a friend. And Charleston is a place full of color, and where literally everything becomes a work of art in Vanessa's hands. And the elder sister of Virginia Woolf studied painting at the Royal Academy, and her teacher was John Singer Sargent, who convinced her to embrace colors. And color is the real leitmotif of her visual poetic. As you can see in the interior of Charleston, everything is full of color, and everything is literally transformed in the hands of Vanessa, because her talent displayed itself in every range of artistic expression, from interior design to furniture for clothes to painting, and of course to the great garden of Charleston. She really loved post-impressionism and Fauve, and with the Omega workshop organized with Roger Fried, had a deep influence on her. And at the moment, I think that talking about Charleston, I think it is worth to introduce a northern Italian writer, who is unfortunately not translated in English, and I'm very sorry for that, because she's the author of one of my favorite book, and that sometimes I want to, sometimes I keep on reading, because it is really a journey through the houses where great writers lived. And Sandra Petrignani, the title of the book is "The Writers Lives Here," if we want to make a sort of rough translation of the Italian title. Sandra Petrignani said that it was precisely visiting Charleston Farm that she had the idea to recreate the life of the writer through the poetry of the objects and the gardens, and as well as the interiors that are revealed by visiting their homes. And she said that precisely visiting Charleston, she had this idea. And in a book, she describes...
It is like in both books, and both the writers you suggest has, it is like they are side by side to us, to explain, to tell in a very informal way how all the writers and how the characters of the writers are lived through their places where they live. So I found that both your suggestions are really very in an easy way to be in touch, to come in touch with these painters and these characters that are really to be discovered again.
But in the book, and Sandra Petrignani writes that there is nothing that objects and the world which surrounds people as a person that reveals also the affections and how they build their own life, even the creative one. So she is now known not only because she is really a good novelist, but she is one of the novelists that always has a sort of guided tour of writers' home or artists' home. And I really appreciate this book, and among others, I mean, she describes also the houses of Grazia Deledda, Marguerite Yourcenar, and Colette, and Karen Blixen, and not only, and also Monk's
I would
house.
love to make a journey all over Europe to visit this place, because they are all visiting houses.
Yes, some of them
to the
are
visitors.
some of them are open to the visitors, some others not. For instance, I know now, but at the time she wrote the book, she had to ask for instance, for a special permission to visit Port Plaisance, which was the ultimate home of Marguerite Yourcenar.
Nice.
So I hope that some of them are, open to the tourist. But I mean, what is true, it is
in my
from the
list,
very beginning that
in my list there is the Karen Blixen house, absolutely, and I know that it is open.
Yes, and she
not
had
in
the
this
idea.
period, of course.
Yes, and she had the idea precisely to write the book by visiting Charleston, who was the center of the Bloomsbury group. And as I mentioned in my introduction, in 2012, an exhibition dedicated to the Bloomsbury group has been held at the Rovereto MART Museum, and it was entitled Un altro tempo, another time. And the exhibition was curated by Lea Vergine, who passed away last year. And this exhibition tried to evoke this movement and this the feeling, and not only that, again, that invisible thread that are emerging from every kind of works of the Bloomsbury group, and embodied at that time from the most relevant people of the time, such as Vanessa Bell, Virginia and Leonard Woolf, Roger Fry, Duncan Grant, Maynard Keynes, Thomas Eliot, Edward Forster, for example, that all was gathered at Charleston. And colors, as we said, was the really main leitmotif of Vanessa Bell. As you can see, this is a nude with poppies, and as you can see, it has really something that recalls Fauve, and especially long nudes painted by Matisse. But she quite suddenly left this kind of, in a way, figurative style to and open himself to abstract painting. And probably we have another one, and this kind of abstract painting were useful to her also because she used it for clothes and also for furniture. So everything, as I said, in her hand was a joy, a joy for color and for life. And because
this could be a brooch, this painting.
Oh,
this could
yes.
be a contemporary brooch.
It could be a contemporary brooch or something, probably,
or yes. A clothes, or a
yes, or something
scarf,
that you can and what is really nice that that I feel, I feel freedom in a way, this kind of a life in freedom, but also a moving sensibility. And Bloomsbury was really, as Lea Vergine said, another time, because it was something that was a unique, a unique not movement, but a unique expression of a sort of, we can call it elite, probably, but very, very free. Everybody was really free. There were free love also, and relationship was extremely, extremely free.
We are talking about the beginning of the
beginning of
20th century.
Yes,
yes. And it was this the climate, the
yes.
feeling of the new century.
Yes, the idea also of this was thanks also to Roger Fry, who was an art critic and who was in Paris, and who was choosing some painters as Cézanne and Fauve and Matisse, and post-impressionism painters to make an exhibition in London. So this was really really important also for the for English painting, and above all for Vanessa Bell. So this is, I mean, the last, our last.
Yes. Every time you speak about Bloomsbury, when you started talking to, and we shaped the conversation on Bloomsbury, I'm always connected with the also, for example, with Coco Chanel, with this kind of spirit of innovation, of breaking all kind of boundaries towards new kind of expressions in art, in fashion, in theater,
in music. Because we didn't have to forget that also they really Bloomsbury group and especially Roger Fry wanted to was the connection between the ballet russe and in England. So we do not have to forget the importance of the ballet russe, Russian ballets, as also in field of music at that time. Everything was everything was blooming literally, and it was
even
really
in economy. I discovered that Maynard Keynes was in the group, so it was another kind of breaking with theories, with classical theories also. And so in every field they have this common feeling and gathers together to share this. And when I look at this painting about Vanessa by Vanessa
Bell,
I instantly recall to the Wassily Kandinsky book that it is really often on my desktop, because I remember when we suggested a theme for one of the editions of Gioielli in Fermento was centered on the colors, because color is one of really the elements that is really appealing, as we very quickly we will show on the example of the authors in contemporary jewelry that we selected for today. And I think it is really focused, especially in one of the chapters of this book. The form and the color helps to give meaning, to shape the concept, to transfer the intention of the artist in what is really the full subject of the work. So this is my little suggestion for if anyone can maybe read again, because it's for sure it's a classic in the art literature, but this is really my little suggestion. And we can introduce our choices for tonight.
Yes, and its colors and forms are the bridges that will allow, that gives us the possibility to jump in the contemporary field. And colors, for instance, is one of the elements of important elements that characterize the works of Ramon Puig Cuyas, who is a contemporary jeweler from Spain. And he said in one of this is his last book, which condenses all his artistic life and career. But what I wanted to suggest is also to read really one of my favorite books, actually, and it is one of the first books, together with the Compendium of Contemporary Jewelry written by Lisbeth Den Besten, that I opened when I started studying the field of contemporary jewelry, which is the Roberta Bernabei's book, Contemporary Jewelers, Interview with European Artists. And I really suggest people who want to get in touch with this field to read this book, because it is, to me, as an art historian who always had studied, dead painters, because it's true. It has to be a really great privilege to have the possibility and the opportunity to talk and exchange ideas with living artists. And as regards Ramon Puig, I really love the very beginning of the interview, because at the very beginning, Roberta Bernabei asks, "How and why did you start making jewelry?" And he answers that, "I need to explain a little about my history. When I was young, I used to watch from my house in front of the sea how boats passed by and got lost beyond the skyline. I tried to imagine to which possible distant ports and city they were sailing. I dreamt of being a sailor and discovering new shores and new exotic cities and islands. And then afterwards I find infinitude in starry nights. And I would have loved to be an astronomer and to spend nights and more nights watching the sky, exploring beyond the universe's deep horizon. I would imagine and discover new worlds and suns. And subsequently, I thought about becoming a biologist, penetrating into the mysterious microcosm of life. However, I ended up building my own destiny in order to devote myself to an art which gives you the opportunity to discover and imagine and invent and transform other kind of universes, inner universes, which emerge from the depths of our dreams and our desires. And I think that this brooch really, it is really condenses what I've just read and
You
folds.
can you can replace the word like a painter
Yes,
instead of a goldsmith.
yes,
And this is the same vision.
yes. And not only, as you can see, there is always one eye, and particularly this eye is the one of Lucrezia Panciatichi, who is looking at you, and again, we always, as Ramon Puig said in another interview with our jewelry forum, for me, jewelry allows me to process the need to transform, to build, to enlighten, and to make visible the invisible. So again, there is this concept that is really, really that I really cherish. The fact that we are all looking and try to decrypting the invisible by the visible representation, and which could be a sculpture, a painting, or a brooch. Oh, this is really nice. Thank you.
This is
Thank you.
not only a brooch, but it's an atmosphere, a full scenery
Yes.
that you help us to investigate.
Yes, this is one of the series of métissage that I've made, combining fashion and contemporary jewelry. And this is a series. The brooch of Ramon are part of the series Gardens. And as about brooches, Ramon Puig said always that. Brooches have fewer restriction in the body, and it gives also more freedom and options in constructions. And I just opposed to this dress by Oscar de la Renta, just to express one of the concept that is at the basis of the project of the métissage, that is that you can reach the same a similar aesthetic result by different media of expressions. So and because probably Oscar de la Renta didn't knew how was the research, I mean the jewelry research of Ramon, but they really are perfectly combined, because both of them were investigating the idea of gardens in this small as a small sculpture as you that you can wear actually. And as about colors, again, Ramon said in his interview in Roberta Bernabei's book that color has been a fundamental part in my work for many years. And I need to use color because I want to make enjoyable jewelry. And because in my Mediterranean cultural background, light and color are present in many cultural and everyday lives. And color gives me the possibility to accentuate the expressive contents. And this idea of expressive contents, I think it is expressed also in the works of Sally Marsland. Read. And she's an Australian jeweler. And in a recent interview with Rebecca Frank for our jewellery forum, she stated that color has been another preoccupation, and it is so powerful and yet subjective, she says, and it changes the way we respond to forms also, and it moves us. It gets in the way, perhaps in a similar way that verbal language gets in the way of experiences objects. And right now, she said in the interview, I'm interested in how surface and transparency change color. And again, color and forms are the visual identity of this contemporary jewelry maker. And we have also, thank you, another example of métissage with a blue brooch and an outfit from Victor and Rolf catwalk. So I really, when I saw them at first time, I said to myself, "Oh, this is perfect. This is one of the example of what I really of a métissage has to be, because they don't know each other, and
definitely
no, and they found really a different solution with different, a similar solution with different media of expression.
And to express this kind of painterly, because also a dress is painterly,
yes,
is painterly, because it's like a fusion between painting and a way of an adornment for the body.
Yes.
So it's really, you're great, Nichka. This combination, it's really opening our mind. I mean, I'm thanking you because this kind of also of stress, of contrast that you suggest to see and look at together, it's really like a spark for our mind to make these kind of connections.
Yes, people are really quite amazed when they discover that none of the creators knows each other. And this is quite, this is I'm investigating, so the life of forms that it migrates from a field of art to another one. And because it is not, I wanted to underline that in this case, and as for all the myriad of métissage, I think I've posted almost 1,000 from yes, because I started métissage in 2014. So that it is not the fact that a brooch is created for a special dress or vice versa. They are completely, they are completely different. I mean, there are two fields of art that dialogue together through the life of forms. And this is very, very interesting because they really express this concept of reaching the same aesthetical result by using different media of expression, different languages, expressive languages. You can see another Sally Marsland brooch together with Stéphane Rollin, and I think it was simply perfect, and they match perfectly together.
And I forget to show you when you spoke about the gardens by Ramon Puig. This nice métissage. Sorry, I forget when you
Don't
were talking
worry.
about this.
If people is interested, they can also check for the métissage in the blog. Yes, in the blog.
The Morning Bark, themorningbark.com.
Mm-hmm. But painterly refers also not only to colors, but how you can also to, not in the world of color, but in the world of painting, in the world of painting. And the artist who really has a sort of painting approach, no, not only one, of course, is Gigi Mariani. And he employs a special alloy. We can see one of your favorite rings.
Yes, let me show this one because it's really important for our development of projects, and this marks really a nice beginning.
Yes. I think that this was really this was the beginning of the research on the rough surfaces.
The beginning of the shift
yes,
towards the discovering of something more related, I think, to his nature as a painter and his nature as a goldsmith.
Yes, and I think it's dating 2011. Yes. And it is one of the I think it is the very beginning of the research of by Gigi on rough surfaces and how he can build and make really and creating speaking surfaces. But one of the turning point of Gigi is when he always said that it was during a workshop with Maria Rosa Franzin and Graziano Visentin from the Padua school, and he discovered niello, and which is actually an alloy made of sulfur, copper, silver, and lead, and which was really an ancient technique for goldsmithing, and which is really used as a brush stroke. But he changed it completely, and I think this brooch is the turning point of his own, of a part of his research in terms of artistic research, because he discovered niello, that it could be literally painted. We have also to do not forget that Gigi is also a painter, so this is really painterly. And it gives him the possibility to recreate a sort of really rough surfaces. But as I always said, I always had the idea that niello for Gigi was not something that covered the metals, or that could be silver or gold or whatever metal he employs. Niello was useful to him to discover something, not to cover. And he started a really lucky and how we can define, Eliana, a really lucky
Well,
season.
yes, in Italian is something a positive way to interpret the success, not successfully only for the audience, but for because it is an upgrade, a goal that it goes. It is an achievement. In this way, I think it's happily resolved as a progress in the artist's career.
Yes, but I think that for artists, the idea of achievement has something to do with opening a door and discover something different. So an achievement is both the end as well as the beginning of something and the beginning of something else. And this was really the beginning of a really happy, serious. I mean, when I say happy, it is probably as the Italian felicità. I mean
a positive,
as a
positive result.
As a positive result of a visual and yet an artistic, I mean, reflection, and that changed
his perspective.
and he changed his perspective and another door, and he made another turning point. Is that when he created the only one white book of his own career, and I was very. It has been really a great privilege for me to work with him with the project of the alchemical egg, because this is his interpretation of the albedo, which means that it is the second step of the alchemical track, of the alchemical progression and process of the transformation of material. And Gigi was one of the only one of the 4 artists that were engaged in the project, to make a different choice. And he investigated the alchemical process through the lenses of psychoanalysis, together with by reading the book of Carl Gustav Jung, and this was the result. And again, the surface has a lot of things to say, and again, there is an invisible that emerges from the visible. And the second step of the alchemical track in the research, in Gigi's view, was the one that when you finally you can find a new one and try to connect all the different parts that are incredibly fragile and worked and reworked through the psychological path you have to walk. So this was one of them, and to me it has been a really great privilege to work with him in this project.
Exhibition
Because
you curate for a gallery in Barcelona.
Yes.
And this is another
and then you can see,
point.
And this is another, and this is and this is another turning point, and another door that is opened, and which is, there is in yellow, there is gold, but always the surface is really rough and is really worked and reworked, and it is another door that is opened.
And from as we began, now we
close.
We close with gold. Let me go to the images we had at the beginning.
Yes, the buttercups. And I really, even if it is considered narrative jewelry, I mean, which is really depicts something that is really natural, and it is something that it's yes, narrative in a way, and you can see as a the result, it's similar to the one that you have in So these really lovely buttercups, I really something that it is really nice, because they are as in a sort of the circle, and they reconnect us to the very beginning. So the idea of these margins, and the idea of this making the invisible visible, and of course the idea that living in the margins and being in the margins gives you the possibility to have a different point of view, a point of observation, and the possibility to have how can I say, a good a good point of observation for what's going on. And as the buttercups, also the cornflowers by Christopher Thompson Royds are one of those flowers that kindly blooms in hedgerows, and
very humble,
yes, very humble, but they have
kind
really
of flowers.
Yes, they are very humble, but at the same time, they become so precious, and they finally have the right light that they deserve, as the women artists we met in the first in the first part.
Indeed, you said can be maybe at the first level can be very descriptive
At the very beginning.
At the very beginning, but really, if I may quote a sentence Olga Zobel said during another conversation here at the Archivio, maybe the most innovative way for art in the future is to recall, to put again beauty in art. So this is, I think, this can be I'm really, I was really touched by this sentence, because by this consideration, because I think that really art is open to everybody. It has to hit everybody with different level of sensitiveness, sensibilities. So also in a descriptive piece, you can read really all the delicacy, all the details, or all why artists are in every epoch are connected to nature. Nature is the inspiration also for contemporary art. So we talk about gardens, about flowers, but indeed, these are the subjects that are really astonishing us every morning when we can meet these signs of nature. So maybe it's a step to put again beauty in art. And this could be the most innovative frontier.
But it is true. Well, it is true that for art for arts in general, but also especially for contemporary art, I always say that it is really a complex system, as jewelry. As the contemporary jewelry world is. I mean, there are a lot of people who act in this field, and as well as a lot of visual languages. So artists have the great task to make questions, and they use their own languages. I mean, but what I wanted to say is that also contemporary jewelry is a visual language of this time, and it has to be considered a form of art, not an applied art or something that is considered as a small
lower.
No. So I think this is really important, and it gives you also the idea of a different kind, as I always as I said even in the other episodes, we are investigating different kind of preciousness, which has nothing to do with precious metals or stones or precious stones. I mean, why? I mean, we have to distinguish. I mean, the value from the artistic value. And it doesn't matter if something it is really narrative or descriptive, but I mean, there is something behind, and there is something behind. And again, it is our task to decrypt what we consider the invisible.
Thank you, Nichka. Every episode of our conversations literally flies in a moment. We are going very, very long because we have 20 minutes after 1 hour. But
as usual.
1 hour. As usual, we are, but I can't.
I know I talk too much as a woman.
No. It's such a pleasure to listen to you, and I hope that was a pleasure also for our audience. I ask if someone has any considerations to please let me just see the chat, because in the chat I'm side by side to your talking. I was pointing out some of the references, but if anyone has any other curiosity or a question for you, it's a pleasure. It's the moment now, or you can write us and we will be happy, and it will be enjoyable to understand and maybe propose new subjects. Really, I have already new ideas for you, Nichka, and I hope that will be a next episode very, very soon. So
we will do it.
Okay, thank you again.
Thanks to you. Thanks everybody for joining us.
And stay tuned to Archivio Negroni. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.